The pregnancy test clattered into the bathroom sink. Negative. Again. Aisha Babalola stared at the single line mocking her from the small window, her hands gripping the marble counter until her knuckles ached. 18 months of marriage to Kang Jahun. 18 months of trying. 18 months of watching that single line appear where two should be. She pressed her palms against her flat stomach, the same stomach that had once carried Zuri. The daughter she'd lost on a subway bathroom floor 4 years ago. The daughter Tyrell had stolen from her through his cruelty and abandonment. Maybe I'm broken, she whispered to her reflection. Maybe losing her broke something that can't be fixed. The penthouse bedroom door opened behind her. She didn't turn around, but she felt Jahun's presence immediately, the way the air changed when he entered a room, heavy with authority and protection. Yobo. His voice was soft, concerned. The test. Aisha's throat tightened. She couldn't look at him. Couldn't face the disappointment she was certain would be in his eyes. Negative. Silence. Then his tattooed arms wrapped around her from behind, his dragon and tiger sleeves visible in the mirror, his chin resting on her shoulder. The phoenix on his neck seemed to watch her with the same patient devotion its wearer showed. It's okay, Jahun murmured. We have time. Do we? Aisha's voice cracked. I'm almost 30. You're 42. Your mother keeps asking when she'll have grandchildren. Your entire organization is waiting for an heir. And I can't even. Stop. Jahun turned her to face him, his tattooed hands across the knuckles, cupping her face gently. My mother can wait. The organization can wait. You are not a baby factory. You're my wife. My partner. My everything. Aisha wanted to believe him. But the doubt had already planted itself, a poisonous seed growing in the dark spaces of her mind. Because 3 days ago, she'd found a woman's earring in his car. Diamond. Expensive. Not hers. And yesterday, his phone had buzzed at 2 a.m. with a message he'd deleted without reading in front of her. And this morning, she'd smelled perfume on his jacket, something floral and expensive that she didn't wear. I have a meeting, Jahun said, kissing her forehead. I'll be back by dinner. We can talk to the fertility specialist Dr. Park recommended, okay? Aisha nodded, not trusting her voice. After he left, she stood in their massive penthouse overlooking Seoul and felt more alone than she had when she was homeless. What she didn't know was that in a private hospital across the city, Jahun was having a very different conversation. Mr. Kang, Dr. Kim said, sliding the test results across the desk. I'm sorry. The issue isn't with your wife. It's with you. Before we continue, if you're already hooked on Aisha and Jahun's story, hit that like button right now. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it, because this part 2 is about to get even more intense than the first. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Now let's continue. Jahun stared at the papers, his tattooed hands perfectly still on the desk. Explain. Your sperm count is significantly below normal, likely due to environmental factors, stress, exposure to toxins, possibly related to your previous lifestyle. Dr. Kim chose his words carefully. Everyone in Seoul's medical community knew who Kang Jahun was. Natural conception is possible, but unlikely without intervention. Can it be fixed? Possibly. With treatment, lifestyle changes, possibly IVF. But Mr. Kang, Dr. Kim hesitated. This will require your wife knowing the truth. Jahun's jaw tightened. No, sir. I said no. Jahun stood, his full height and presence making the doctor shrink back. My wife has been through enough. She lost a child because of a worthless man who abandoned her. She spent months thinking she was broken, worthless. I will not let her know that I'm the reason she can't conceive. Do you understand? But the treatment, I'll handle it privately. Tell her the tests were inconclusive. Tell her we need more time. Tell her anything except the truth. Jahun's knuckles rapped once on the desk, a period on the conversation. And doctor, if this information leaves this room, you'll find out why they call me the King of Seoul. Dr. Kim swallowed hard. Understood. What Jahun didn't know was that Min Yoongi, his second-in-command and closest friend, was standing outside the hospital room, having followed him out of concern. Yoongi had heard everything. And Yoongi, in his infinite loyalty and finite wisdom, decided that what his boss needed was help. The kind of help that would, 3 weeks later, destroy everything. Aisha was leaving the New Dawn Foundation when she saw them. Jahun's black Mercedes, parked outside an upscale restaurant in Gangnam, and through the window, her husband sitting across from a woman. Not just any woman. A beautiful woman. Korean. Maybe 30. Elegant black dress, pearl necklace, laughing at something Jahun said. Aisha's heart stopped. She watched as the woman reached across the table and touched Jehun's hand. Watched as he didn't pull away. Watched as they talked with the easy familiarity of people who'd known each other a long time. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jehun. Working late. Don't wait up. Love you. But he wasn't working. He was having dinner with another woman. And he was lying about it. Aisha's hands shook as she took a photo through the window. Then another. And another. The poisonous seed in her mind bloomed into something dark and consuming. He's cheating. Of course he is. You can't give him children. You're damaged goods. He's a powerful man. Why would he stay with a broken woman when he could have anyone? She went home and did something she'd never done before. She went through his things. His closet. His desk. His private office that she'd always respected as his personal space. In the bottom drawer of his desk, hidden under business files, she found it. A folder. Medical documents. Bills from a fertility clinic. Appointments scheduled under a fake name. And a photograph of a Korean woman, the same woman from the restaurant, with a handwritten note. Thank you for everything. I couldn't do this without you. Dr. Park Soo-young. Dr. Park. The fertility specialist Jehun had recommended. Aisha's world tilted. He wasn't just cheating. He'd gotten another woman pregnant. A doctor. Someone educated, sophisticated, Korean. Everything Aisha wasn't. Someone who could give him the children Aisha's broken body couldn't provide. She was still sitting on the floor of his office, the photo in her hands, when Jehun came home 3 hours later. He found her there, surrounded by the evidence of his secrets, her face wet with silent tears. Aisha, his face went pale. What are you doing? Who is she? Aisha's voice was dead, hollow. She held up the photo. Who is Dr. Park Soo-young? Jehun's jaw worked, the phoenix on his neck seeming to tense. It's not what you think. Then what is it? Aisha stood, and Jehun saw something in her eyes he'd never seen before. Not pain, but rage. Because what I think is that you've been sleeping with your fertility doctor. That you got her pregnant. That you've been lying to me for months while I've been tearing myself apart thinking I'm broken. No. Don't lie to me. Aisha's scream echoed through the penthouse. I saw you. Tonight. Having dinner with her. Holding her hand. And you texted me that you were working late. Jehun's expression shifted from shock to something like panic. You're wrong. You don't understand. Then make me understand. Aisha threw the photo at him. It hit his chest and fell. Explain the secret medical appointments. Explain the bills from a fertility clinic under a fake name. Explain why you're having romantic dinners with a woman who wrote, I couldn't do this without you. I can't. The words came out broken. And that's when Aisha's heart shattered completely. You can't, she repeated numbly. You can't explain because there's no explanation except the truth. You're having a baby with her. Aisha, please. Get out. Her voice was ice. Get out of this room. Get out of my sight. I can't look at you right now. This is my house. Then I'll leave. Aisha grabbed her purse, her phone, anything she could reach. I'll go back to the foundation. I'll go anywhere but here with you. Jehun moved to block the door, his tattooed arms spread wide. You're not leaving. Not like this. Not when you don't have the full truth. I have enough truth. Aisha shoved at his chest, and he let her hit him with all her rage and pain. You're a liar. You're a cheater. You're just like Tyrell. You're just like every other man who made me believe I was worth something and then proved I wasn't. That last comparison, being called the same as Tyrell, made something crack in Jehun's carefully controlled expression. I am nothing like him, Jehun said, his voice dropping to that deadly quiet tone that made Seoul's underworld tremble. I have never betrayed you. I have never touched another woman. I have never stopped loving you for a single goddamn second. Then what is this? Aisha grabbed the medical bills from the floor. What are these appointments? What is this treatment? Who is Dr. Park? Jehun's hands clenched, and standing out stark against his white knuckles. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, the treatment is for me. Dr. Park is my doctor. And the reason I've been lying to you is because I didn't want you to know that I'm the one who's broken. Aisha froze. What? I'm infertile. The words came out like glass. Or nearly. My sperm count is almost non-existent. Dr. Kim ran tests 6 weeks ago. Said it's probably from environmental exposure. All those years in the underground, the violence, the toxins. It's my fault we can't conceive. Not yours. Mine. The room spun. Aisha couldn't finish the sentence. The appointments are for me. Hormone treatments. Supplements. Dr. Park is a specialist in male infertility. She's been helping me try to improve my count, so we might have a chance naturally. The dinner you saw. She was explaining the results of my latest tests. Jehun's voice cracked, which showed minimal improvement, which means I'm failing you. Again. Jehun, I didn't tell you because you've spent months thinking you're broken, blaming yourself, crying over negative pregnancy tests. I couldn't. His voice broke completely. I couldn't add to that pain by telling you that the man who's supposed to protect you, provide for you, give you everything, can't even give you the one thing you want most. Aisha stared at him, at this dangerous man who ruled Seoul's underground with an iron fist, who'd destroyed Tyrell without breaking a sweat, who'd never shown weakness to anyone. And he was crying. You thought protecting me meant lying to me, Aisha said quietly. Yes. You thought I'd blame you. Yes. You thought I'd love you less. Jehun's silence was answer enough. Aisha crossed the space between them and did something she'd never done before. She slapped him. The crack echoed through the office. Jehun's head snapped to the side, the phoenix on his neck stark against his reddening skin. He didn't react. Didn't defend himself. Just took it. That's for lying to me, Aisha said. Then she grabbed his face and kissed him hard. And that's for being an idiot who thinks I married you for your sperm count. Aisha, I married you because you're the only man who's ever made me feel safe. The only man who's ever chosen me when I had nothing to offer. The only man who's ever loved me without conditions. Her hands framed his face, her thumbs wiping away his tears. I don't care if we never have biological children. We can adopt. We can foster. We can help the children at the foundation. But what I cannot do, what I will never accept, is you lying to me to protect my feelings. I'm sorry. Jehun's forehead dropped to hers. I'm so sorry. Seeing you hurt every month, watching you blame yourself, I couldn't stand it. So you took all the blame yourself. You shouldered it alone. You suffered in silence. Aisha pulled back to look at him. That's not marriage, Jehun. That's martyrdom. And I didn't sign up to be married to a martyr. I signed up to be married to a partner. I don't know how to be weak with you. I'm not asking you to be weak. I'm asking you to be honest. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Aisha took his tattooed hands, and, in hers, we survive together or we fall together. Those are the only options. Jehun pulled her into his arms, and they stood like that for a long time, two broken people holding each other together. What neither of them knew was that Jehun's mother had been listening from the hallway, and Madame Kang Jisu was not pleased. The next morning, Aisha woke to find Jehun's side of the bed cold and empty. A note on his pillow. Emergency business. Back by dinner. I love you. Jay. She was making coffee when the penthouse elevator opened, and Madame Kang walked in without knocking. Jehun's mother was 63, but looked 50. Elegant in a Chanel suit, her hair in a perfect chignon, her makeup flawless. She'd been a beauty in her youth, and she wielded her age like a weapon. Proof that she'd survived decades in a world that chewed up women and spit them out. Aisha. Madame Kang's voice could frost windows. We need to talk. Good morning to you too, Amma. Aisha kept her voice neutral. In 18 months of marriage, she and Jehun's mother had maintained a cold civility. Not enemies. Not family. Just two women orbiting the same man. Don't call me that. You haven't earned it. Madame Kang settled onto the leather sofa like a queen on a throne. I heard you and my son fighting last night. The entire floor heard you. Aisha's hands tightened on her coffee cup. That was a private conversation. Nothing is private when it concerns my family's future. Madame Kang's eyes, the same intense dark eyes Jehun had inherited, fixed on Aisha. You've been married 18 months. No pregnancy. No heir. Do you understand what that means for our organization? With respect, your organization isn't my concern. My marriage is. Your marriage exists because of our organization. Madame Kang's voice sharpened. Do you think my son married you for love? He married you because he was lonely. Because you were a charity project that stroked his ego. But the reality is that he's the heir to an empire that requires children. Legitimate children. Korean children who can carry on our legacy. The words hit like physical blows, but Aisha kept her expression neutral. I'm aware of the cultural expectations. Then you understand that you're failing. Madame Kang leaned forward. I've been patient. I've waited. I've watched my son waste his prime years on a woman who can't give him the one thing that matters. But my patience has limits. What are you saying? I'm saying that I'll pay you 10 billion won to divorce my son quietly. To disappear. To let him find a proper Korean wife who can actually bear children. Madame Kang pulled out a check, already made out, and placed it on the coffee table. That's roughly 8 million US dollars. Enough to fund your little foundation for decades. Enough to live comfortably anywhere in the world. All you have to do is sign the papers and leave. Aisha stared at the check, her mind reeling. 10 billion won. More money than she'd ever imagined. Enough to help thousands of women. Enough to never worry about money again. All she had to do was confirm what a voice in her head had been whispering since she found out about Jehun's infertility. You're not enough. You'll never be enough. Let him go find someone better. No, Aisha said quietly. Madame Kong blinked. Excuse me. No, I'm not divorcing your son. Not for 10 billion won. Not for 100 billion won. Not for anything you could possibly offer me. Aisha stood, and despite being younger and less powerful, she met Madame Kang's eyes without flinching. I love him. He loves me. And I don't care if we never have children. I care about having a marriage built on truth and partnership and respect. You stupid girl. Madame Kang's expression turned pitying. You think love is enough? In this world, in our life, love is a luxury. Power is survival. And you have no power here. I have Jehun's love. That's all the power I need. His love won't protect you when the organization demands an heir. His love won't stop the whispers that he married beneath him. His love won't. The elevator opened. Jehun walked in, followed by Yoongi, and his expression when he saw his mother went from surprised to furious in half a second. What are you doing here? Having a conversation with your wife about her limitations. Madame Kong gestured to the check on the table. A conversation that's concluded. She's made her choice. Jehun's eyes found the check, and his entire body went rigid. You offered her money to leave me. I offered her a practical solution to an impossible situation. Get out. Jehun's roar shook the windows. Get out of my home. Get out of my life. And if you ever disrespect my wife again, I will cut you off from the family entirely. Madame Kong stood slowly, dignified even in defeat. You'll regret choosing her over your legacy. She's my legacy. Jehun's tattooed hands were shaking with rage. She's worth more than 100 heirs. More than this entire organization. And if you can't see that, then you're not the woman who raised me. Madame Kong left without another word. In the silence that followed, Jehun turned to Aisha. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have set boundaries with her months ago. I should have. She's right about one thing, Aisha interrupted softly. I can't give you an heir. Your organization needs. Fuck the organization. Jehun crossed to her, his hands cupping her face. Fuck the heir. Fuck all of it. You are what I need. You are what I choose. Every single day. But what if we never have children? Then we don't. Or we adopt. Or we find another way. But I'm not losing you over this. His forehead pressed to hers. You're my phoenix, remember? We rise together. Aisha kissed him, and for the first time in weeks, she felt the poisonous doubt begin to dissolve. What neither of them saw was Yoongi in the corner, his phone vibrating with a message from Dr. Park. A message that would change everything. 3 months later, Aisha stood in Dr. Park's office, her hands shaking as she held the ultrasound image. I don't understand, she whispered. The tests last month were negative. This month was negative. How? Sometimes it takes time for the hormone levels to register, Dr. Park said gently, her hand on Aisha's shoulder. But there's no doubt now. You're pregnant. About 8 weeks. 8 weeks, Aisha repeated numbly. Then, wait. 8 weeks means. Probably conceived around the time of your fight with Jehun. Strong emotions can sometimes trigger ovulation. And Mr. Kang's treatment had improved his count just enough. Dr. Park smiled. It's rare, but not impossible. Aisha stared at the tiny blob on the ultrasound image. Her baby. Their baby. Then Dr. Park said something that made Aisha's world tilt again. And here's the second heartbeat. This second. Twins. Congratulations, Mrs. Kong. You're having twins. Aisha burst into tears. She was still crying 2 hours later when she showed Jehun the ultrasound in his office at the shipping company he used as a front for his legitimate businesses. He stared at the image for a full minute in silence, his tattooed hands perfectly still on his desk. Twins, he finally said. Twins, Aisha confirmed. We're having twins. We're having twins. Jehun stood, walked around the desk, knelt in front of her, and pressed his face against her still flat stomach. His shoulders shook. Jehun, are you crying? No, he said, his voice muffled and absolutely crying. You're crying. Shut up. I'm not crying. Kings don't cry. You're definitely crying. Aisha's fingers ran through his hair, and she felt her own tears start again. We're both crying. We're having twins, Jehun repeated, like he couldn't quite believe it. We're having twins. They sat like that for a long time, two broken people who'd been told they couldn't create life, holding the proof that impossible things happen. What they didn't know was that outside Jehun's office, Madame Kong had arrived to have a very different conversation with her son. And when Yoongi told her the news, twins due in 7 months, her reaction was not what anyone expected. She smiled, and in that smile was something calculating, something dangerous. Because Madame Kong hadn't built an empire by accepting defeat. She'd built it by playing the long game. The pregnancy was difficult from the start. At 12 weeks, Aisha started bleeding. They rushed to the hospital, certain they were losing both babies. But the ultrasound showed 2 strong heartbeats, and Dr. Park explained it was likely implantation bleeding. Scary but not dangerous. At 16 weeks, Aisha developed hyperemesis gravidarum, severe morning sickness that left her unable to keep down food or water. She lost 8 pounds in 2 weeks and had to be hospitalized for 4 fluids. Jehun barely left her side. He moved meetings to her hospital room, ran his empire from a laptop next to her bed, held her hair when she vomited and her hand when she cried from exhaustion and fear. This is my fault, Aisha sobbed one night after her 4th hospital admission. My body can't do this. I'm going to lose them like I lost Zuri. No. Jehun's voice was iron. You're not. You're strong. You're fighting. And I'm going to make sure you have every resource, every doctor, every treatment available. What if it's not enough? Then we'll deal with it together. But you're not giving up. And neither am I. At 20 weeks, the bleeding started again. Worse this time. Aisha was put on strict bed rest. And that's when Madame Kong made her move. She arrived at the penthouse with a traditional Korean healer, a Hanbang doctor who specialized in difficult pregnancies. Western medicine has failed you, Madame Kong announced, sweeping into Aisha's bedroom. It's time to try traditional methods. Aisha was too exhausted to argue. The healer examined her, asked detailed questions about her symptoms, and then prescribed a regimen of herbal teas and acupuncture. 3 times a week, the healer said. The herbs will strengthen your womb. The needles will balance your energy. Jehun was skeptical, but when Dr. Park said it couldn't hurt, he agreed. What no one knew was that Madame Kong had paid the healer to add something extra to the herbal mixture. Something that would slowly, carefully, cause a miscarriage. Because in Madame Kang's mind, if Aisha couldn't carry the pregnancy successfully, Jehun would finally see that she was too weak, too foreign, too wrong for their family. And he'd be free to marry a proper Korean woman. Someone strong. Someone worthy. The herbs made Aisha violently ill. After the 1st week, she was vomiting blood. After the 2nd week, the bleeding increased. After the 3rd week, she collapsed in the penthouse and woke up in the ICU with Jehun's terrified face above her. The babies was the first thing she asked. Still alive, but barely. Aisha, what happened? Dr. Park said your blood work shows signs of poisoning. Poisoning? Aisha's mind struggled through the fog. The only thing I've been taking is the herbal medicine your mother. She stopped. Jehun's expression went from concern to absolute fury. The herbal medicine my mother provided. Jehun, no. She wouldn't. But Jehun was already on his phone, speaking rapid Korean to Yoongi, his voice deadly calm in the way that meant someone was about to suffer. Within an hour, the healer had been picked up by Jehun's men. Within 2 hours, she'd confessed everything. The poison, Madame Kang's instructions, the plan to make it look like natural complications. Within 3 hours, Jehun walked into his mother's home in Gangnam with 8 armed men and an expression that would haunt his mother's nightmares for years. You tried to kill my children, Jehun said quietly. You tried to kill my wife. Madame Kong stood her ground. I tried to show you the truth, that she's too weak to carry your legacy, that you need a stronger. You poisoned her. Jehun's voice dropped to a whisper. You poisoned my wife. I did what was necessary. Jehun's hand moved so fast Madame Kong didn't see it coming. He grabbed her by the throat, not choking, but controlling, his tattooed fingers with and pressing just hard enough to make breathing difficult. You have 10 seconds to explain why I shouldn't kill you where you stand. I'm your mother. You're a threat to my family, and I eliminate threats. Jehun, please. You taught me that family is everything, that we protect our own above all else. Well, Aisha is my family. Those babies are my family. And you, his grip tightened fractionally. You attacked my family. You declared war. Madame Kang's face was turning red. I was trying to protect the organization. The organization doesn't matter if my wife and children are dead. Jehun released her, and she collapsed, gasping. You're cut off. From the business. From the family. From me. You are nothing to me now. You can't. I'm the king of Seoul. I can do whatever I want. Jehun's phoenix neck tattoo seemed to burn in the light. You'll receive a monthly allowance to maintain your lifestyle. But you will never see me again. Never contact Aisha. Never come near my children. If you violate this even once, I'll do more than cut you off. I'll destroy you. Madame Kong stared at her son, and for the first time in her life, she saw what everyone else in Seoul saw. A man who would burn down the world to protect what was his. She's made you weak, Madame Kong whispered. No. She's made me human. Jehun turned to leave, then paused. And you were wrong. Aisha isn't too weak to carry my legacy. She's strong enough to change it, to make it better, to raise children who understand that power without compassion is just cruelty. You could never do that. He left his mother crying in her empty mansion and returned to the hospital, where Aisha was being monitored around the clock. Your mother? Aisha asked when he sat beside her bed. Gone. Forever. You and our children are my only family now. Aisha took his tattooed hand, and, in hers, I'm sorry you had to choose. I'm not. You're the easiest choice I've ever made. The next 4 months were hell. Bed rest. Hospitalization. Constant monitoring. Aisha's body was fighting to carry the twins, and every day was a battle. At 32 weeks, her water broke. At 33 weeks, she went into early labor. At 34 weeks, in an operating room with Jehun holding her hand and whispering Korean prayers she didn't understand, they pulled 2 tiny, screaming babies from her exhausted body. A boy. A girl. Both perfectly healthy despite everything. Jehun cut both umbilical cords with shaking hands, tears streaming down his face openly now, not caring who saw. The nurses placed the babies on Aisha's chest, and she stared down at them. These impossible miracles, these tiny humans she'd fought so hard to bring into the world, and felt something break open in her chest. We did it, she whispered. You did it, Jehun corrected, kissing her forehead. You're incredible. You're a warrior. You're everything. The boy had Jehun's eyes and Aisha's nose. The girl had Aisha's lips and Jehun's sharp features. Both had heads full of black hair and lungs that could wake the entire hospital. Names, the nurse asked. Jehun looked at Aisha. You choose. Aisha looked down at her daughter, this tiny fighter who'd survived poison and complications and everything the world had thrown at them. Zuri, she said quietly. Her name is Zuri. Jehun's breath caught. Are you sure? She was always meant to be Zuri. Beautiful. This is just her second chance. Our second chance. And him. Jehun touched their son's tiny hand. Daehun. It means great honor. Because he's going to grow up to honor the sacrifices we made to get here. Zuri and Daehun, Jehun repeated. Perfect. The NICU nurses took the twins for their initial checkups, and Jehun climbed carefully into the hospital bed beside Aisha. His tattooed arms wrapped around her as she fell into the first peaceful sleep she'd had in months. 6 weeks later, they brought the twins home to the penthouse. The nursery had been designed by Aisha, soft creams and golds, with a mural of a phoenix rising across one wall. 2 cribs, 2 changing tables, enough baby gear to stock a small country. Jehun stood in the doorway watching Aisha rock Zuri while Daehun slept in his crib, and he thought about the woman he'd found outside a hospital 4 years ago, broken, homeless, hopeless. And now she was here, in their home, holding their daughter, having survived everything life had thrown at her. What are you thinking about? Aisha asked, noticing his stare. That I'm the luckiest man alive, even though we haven't slept more than 2 hours at a time in 6 weeks. Especially because of that. Jehun crossed to her and kissed the top of her head. This is everything I didn't know I needed. Zuri chose that moment to spit up all over Aisha's shirt. Still feel lucky? Aisha asked drily. Incredibly. That night, after the babies were finally asleep and they collapsed into their own bed, Jehun pulled Aisha against his chest and said something he'd been holding for weeks. I called my mother today. Aisha stiffened. Why? To tell her she has grandchildren. To tell her their names. To tell her that if she ever wants to meet them, she'll have to apologize to you first. Sincerely. Completely. No conditions. What did she say? Nothing. She hung up. But she'll come around eventually. She's too curious. Too proud of the family line. She'll want to see them. And if she doesn't apologize, then she doesn't meet them. Ever. You and our children are my priority. Not her. Not the organization. not Sol's opinion. You. Aisha turned in his arms to face him, her fingers tracing the phoenix on his neck. Do you ever regret it? Choosing me over your mother? Your reputation? The easy path? Never. Not once. Not for a second. Jehun's tattooed hands, and cupped her face. You're my phoenix. My fighter. My everything. And those babies in there? They're proof that impossible things happen when broken people refuse to give up. We're not broken anymore, Aisha whispered. No. We're rebuilt. Stronger than before. They kissed, and somewhere in the nursery, Daehoon started crying. Then Zuri joined in. Welcome to parenthood, Aisha laughed, pulling away. I wouldn't want it any other way, Jehun said, following her to the nursery. 6 months later, the New Dawn Foundation's second-year anniversary celebration was in full swing when Aisha saw her. Madame Kong Jisoo, standing at the entrance of the event hall, dressed in a simple cream hanbok instead of her usual designer armor. No bodyguards. No entourage. Just an elderly woman holding a gift-wrapped box with shaking hands. Aisha's first instinct was to have security remove her. But something in Madame Kang's posture, the way her shoulders curved inward, the way her eyes stayed fixed on the floor, made her pause. Stay with the twins, Aisha told Jehun quietly. He was across the room with Zuri and Daehoon, showing them off to the Foundation's donors like the proud father he'd become. Your mother's here. Jehun's head snapped toward the entrance, his entire body going rigid. The dragon on his left arm seemed to coil tighter, ready to strike. Do you want me to? No. I'll handle it. Aisha touched his tattooed hand, the knuckles that had destroyed enemies but held their babies with heartbreaking gentleness. Trust me. She crossed the event hall, aware that conversations were stopping, that people were watching. Everyone in Seoul's elite circles knew about the Kong family rift, about the mother-in-law who'd tried to poison the pregnant wife, about the son who'd chosen his foreign bride over his own blood. Madame Kong, Aisha said formally when she reached her. Mrs. Kong. Jehun's mother bowed, not the shallow courtesy bow of equals, but the deep, respectful bow of someone acknowledging their wrong. Thank you for not having me removed. The night is young. A ghost of a smile crossed Madame Kang's face. You've learned to fight with words. Good. The Kong women need sharp tongues to survive. I'm not a Kong woman. I'm Aisha Babalola who married a Kong. There's a difference. Yes, I'm beginning to understand that. Madame Kong held out the wrapped box. May I? Aisha didn't take it. What is this? Another bribe? Another scheme? It's an apology. A real one. Madame Kang's voice cracked slightly. I was wrong. About you. About what my son needed. About what makes a family strong. I let pride and tradition blind me to the truth. That you're exactly what Jehun needed. What our family needed. Pretty words. Your son's good at those too. But words didn't stop you from trying to kill my babies. No. And I'll carry that shame to my grave. Madame Kang's eyes, Jehun's eyes, finally met Aisha's. I convinced myself I was protecting the family legacy. But all I did was prove that I'd become the kind of monster who poisons pregnant women. The kind of monster my late husband was. She took a shaking breath. When Jehun cut me off, I was furious. Indignant. How dare he choose some foreign woman over his own mother? But then 6 months of silence. 6 months of my son refusing my calls. 6 months of knowing I have grandchildren I've never met. And I realized I'd become exactly what I'd spent my life fighting against. A woman who hurts other women to maintain power. Aisha studied her carefully, looking for the lie, the manipulation, the angle. But all she saw was a tired old woman who'd finally hit the bottom of her own darkness. The box, Aisha said. Madame Kong opened it carefully. Inside were 2 items, a formal written apology in both Korean and English, notarized and legal, and 2 tiny jade bracelets, traditional Korean protective talismans for babies. These belonged to Jehun's grandmother, Madame Kong said quietly. She wore them as a baby. Jehun wore them as a baby. They're the most precious things I own. I'm giving them to Zuri and Daehoon because I don't deserve to keep them, but they deserve to know their heritage. Aisha took the bracelets, feeling the weight of generations in the cool jade. This doesn't fix what you did, Aisha said. I know. This doesn't make us family. I know. This doesn't guarantee you'll ever meet them. I know. Madame Kang's voice was barely a whisper. But I needed you to know that I see you now. Really see you. You survived homelessness. Pregnancy loss. A poisoning meant to kill you and your babies. You built a foundation that's helped hundreds of women rebuild their lives. You made my son, my terrifying, powerful, emotionally closed son, into someone who cries openly and changes diapers and puts his children before his empire. Her voice broke. You did what I couldn't do. You made him better. And I was so threatened by that, I tried to destroy you. Across the room, Jehun was watching them with Zuri in his arms, his expression unreadable. Their daughter, 6 months old now, with her mother's deep brown skin and her father's intense eyes, was grabbing at the dragon tattoo on his forearm with chubby fingers. You want to meet them, Aisha said. Not a question. More than anything. But only if you allow it. Only if you trust that I will never, ever hurt them. Or you. I swear on my late husband's grave, I will spend the rest of my life earning back what I destroyed. Aisha was quiet for a long moment. Part of her wanted to refuse. To make Madame Kong suffer the way she'd suffered, lying in a hospital bed thinking she was losing her babies. To protect her children from a woman who'd proven she was capable of unconscionable cruelty. But another part of her, the part that had been homeless and alone, that had lost Zuri the first time with no family around her, that understood the desperate loneliness of being cut off from everyone you love, that part understood something important. Forgiveness wasn't about forgetting. It was about refusing to let bitterness poison your own future. You'll see them, Aisha said finally. But not today. Not next week. When I decide you've earned it. You'll attend family therapy. Yes, Madame Kong therapy, with me and Jehun. You'll acknowledge publicly that you were wrong. You'll donate to this foundation. And you'll understand that if you ever threaten my children again, Jehun won't be the one you have to worry about. I will end you myself. Am I clear? For the first time in their relationship, Madame Kong smiled at Aisha with something that looked like respect. Crystal clear. Thank you, daughter-in-law. Don't call me that yet. You haven't earned it. Then I'll work every day until I do. After Madame Kong left, Jehun appeared at Aisha's side, Zuri still in his arms. What did she want? To apologize. To meet the twins. To grovel, basically. Aisha held up the jade bracelets. She gave me these. Said they're family heirlooms. Jehun's eyes widened slightly. Those are. My grandmother only gave those out once per generation. They're supposed to protect the babies from harm and bring them long life. Poetic, given she's the one who tried to harm them. Are you going to let her meet them? Aisha looked at her husband, this dangerous man who'd chosen her over everything, who'd rebuilt himself from underground king to devoted father, whose tattooed hands could kill but chose to soothe, and made a decision. Eventually, after she proves she's changed, after therapy, after I'm certain she won't hurt them, Aisha shifted Daehoon in her other arm. Their son had fallen asleep against her chest, his tiny hand fisted in her dress. But yeah, eventually. Because I don't want our children growing up thinking that one mistake, even a terrible one, means you're beyond redemption. I want them to learn that people can change, that forgiveness is possible, that families are messy and complicated and sometimes broken, but still worth fighting for. Jehun kissed her forehead, careful not to wake Daehoon. You're a better person than I am. No, I'm just someone who knows what it's like to need a second chance. Your mother gave me that when she pushed me to fight back. Even if her methods were twisted, she reminded me I was worth fighting for. Aisha looked down at Zuri, who was now trying to eat her father's phoenix tattoo. These babies are proof that second chances matter. Zuri's a second chance at the daughter I lost. Daehoon's proof that your body isn't broken. We're all second chances. When did you become so wise? Around the time I stopped sleeping more than 2 hours at a time. Sleep deprivation brings clarity. They stood together in the middle of the foundation celebration. Two people who'd been broken and rebuilt, holding the miracles that shouldn't have been possible, and felt something settle into place. Not perfection, not ease, but rightness. 1 year later. Yama, Appa fighting. Aisha looked up from her foundation paperwork to see Zuri, now 18 months old and speaking in a chaotic mix of English, Korean, and Yoruba, pointing at the television. On screen, a news report was showing footage of a confrontation outside one of Jehun's shipping warehouses. Her husband, surrounded by his men, facing down what looked like a rival organization. His dragon and tiger tattoos visible even through his suit jacket, his expression that deadly calm that meant violence was about to happen. Not fighting, baby. Appa's working. Aisha turned off the TV and pulled Zuri into her lap. Where's your brother? Daehoon's sleeping. He boring. He's a baby. You're a baby too. I big girl. Zuri insisted, her little face, a perfect blend of Aisha's features and Jehun's intensity, scrunching with indignation. Yes, you're very big, Aisha agreed, kissing her daughter's forehead. So big that you can help me with something important. What? We're going to visit a woman who's been very sick. Her name is Mrs. Kim. She's staying at the foundation because her husband hurt her very badly. And I need you to show her that little girls can be strong, okay? Zuri nodded seriously, her eyes, Jehun's eyes, solemn beyond her months. This was Aisha's life now. Running the foundation, raising twins, supporting her husband's legitimate businesses while carefully ignoring his less legitimate ones. Attending family therapy sessions with Madame Kong, who was slowly, painfully, learning to be a grandmother instead of a matriarch. It wasn't the life she'd imagined at 22, teaching English in Seoul and dreaming of simple happiness. It was better, harder, messier, more complicated, but better. That evening, Jehun came home late, his knuckles bruised, his suit jacket torn. Rough day at the office? Aisha asked from the nursery where she was putting Daehoon down. You could say that. The Busan Syndicate thought they could move product through my territory. Jehun flexed his tattooed hands, and, wincing slightly, they were wrong. Are you hurt? Nothing serious. Yoongi took most of it. Jehun came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist as they watched their son sleep. How was your day? Less violent. More crying. About the same amount of negotiation. Aisha leaned back against him. Your mother called. She wants to take the twins to the park this weekend. Alone. With us supervising. She's been in therapy for a year, Jehun. She's trying. She tried to kill you. I know. And I haven't forgotten. But I'm choosing to let her earn her way back. For the twins. They deserve to know their grandmother, even if she's complicated. Aisha turned in his arms. Your knuckles need ice. My knuckles need my wife's attention. Smooth. But Aisha took his hands anyway, examining the bruising across his and tattoos. You need to be more careful. The twins are getting old enough to notice when you come home hurt. I'm always careful. You're always dangerous. There's a difference. Jehun pulled her closer, his phoenix neck tattoo catching the nursery's soft light. Do you ever regret it? Marrying into this life? The violence, the danger, the constant threat. Every day, Aisha said honestly. Jehun flinched. But then Zuri says something in 3 languages, or Daehoon smiles at me, or you come home safe, and I remember, this is the life we chose. Together. Messy, dangerous, chaotic, but ours. She traced the phoenix on his neck. We're both still rising, Jehun. Every day. That's what matters. I love you, Jehun murmured against her lips. Even when you're annoyingly right. Especially then. They kissed, and somewhere down the hall, Zuri started crying. A nightmare, probably. Parenting twins meant tag-teaming the chaos. Your turn, Aisha said. I got the last one. You got the last one because you came home late from beating up the Busan Syndicate. That's fair. Jehun headed down the hall, and Aisha heard his deep voice start singing a lullaby. Korean words she'd learned meant something about stars and dreams and safety. She stood in the nursery doorway, watching Daehoon sleep, listening to Jehun comfort Zuri, and thought about the journey that had brought them here. From a subway bathroom where she'd lost her first daughter to a penthouse nursery where 2 miracles slept. From a homeless woman who thought she was worthless to a foundation director helping hundreds rebuild their lives. From a man who ruled through fear to a father who changed diapers and sang lullabies. From broken to rebuilt. From impossible to inevitable. Her phone buzzed. A text from Seo-yun, who now worked as the foundation's operations director. New intake. Woman with 3 kids. Husband drained her accounts and disappeared. Sounds familiar. Aisha's jaw tightened. It always did when she heard stories that echoed her own. She texted back. Get them set up in the family suite. I'll meet with her tomorrow. Tell her she's safe now. Because that's what the foundation was. What her life had become. A place where broken things got rebuilt. Where impossible things became possible. Where phoenixes rose from ashes again and again and again. Yobo. Jehun appeared in the doorway with Zuri half asleep in his arms. Come to bed. The world can wait until morning. Aisha took one last look at Daehoon sleeping peacefully, then followed her husband down the hall. The world could wait. Her family came first. Always. Epilogue 5 years later. Yama. Daehoon hit me. Zuri started it. Did not. Did too. Aisha looked up from her laptop, where she was reviewing the foundation's expansion plans. They were opening their 10th location next month, and sighed. Both of you, timeout. Living room. Now. 2 6-year-olds stomped past her office, identical expressions of indignation on their very different faces. Zuri had Aisha's deep brown skin and natural hair in two puffs, but Jehun's sharp features and intense eyes. Daehoon had inherited more of his Korean features, but Aisha's warm coloring and expressive face. They were beautiful, exhausting, and constantly fighting. They get it from you, Jehun said, appearing in her office doorway with his phone. The fighting thing. They get it from you. The stubbornness thing. That's also from you. We're both disasters. These kids never had a chance. Aisha closed her laptop. What's wrong? You have your someone's about to die face on. Not die. Suffer significantly. Jehun sat on the edge of her desk. Remember Tyrell Washington? Aisha's blood went cold. She hadn't heard that name in 7 years. What about him? He finished his debt. 27 years shortened to 7 for good behavior and exemplary work. My foreman says he's been a model employee, quiet, hardworking, never complained. His debt is paid in full as of today. And he wants to meet with you. To apologize. Face to face. Aisha's first instinct was to refuse. To keep that chapter of her life closed forever. But then she thought about Madame Kong. How 4 years of therapy and genuine change had transformed her into a grandmother who actually showed up for the twins' birthdays, who apologized when she overstepped, who was trying. Forgiveness was complicated. Okay, Aisha said finally. But here, at the foundation, in my office, with you present. And if he says one thing that crosses a line, you can throw him out. Not kill him. We're trying to set a better example for the children. Disappointing, but fair. 3 days later, Tyrell Washington sat across from Aisha in her office at the New Dawn Foundation. He looked different. Older, he'd be 40 now. His hands were calloused from years of construction work. His face had lost that entitled softness, replaced with something harder, but somehow more honest. Thank you for seeing me, Tyrell said quietly. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't sure I would either. Aisha's voice was steady, but Jehun, standing behind her with his tattooed arms crossed, radiated protective tension. You wanted to apologize. Yes, though I know words can't fix what I did. Tyrell's eyes stayed on the desk, unable to meet hers. I stole from you, abandoned you, caused you to lose your daughter, assaulted you years later when you'd rebuilt your life. I was a monster. Yes, Aisha agreed simply. You were. 7 years of manual labor gave me a lot of time to think. About what I'd become. About the kind of man who targets vulnerable women because they're easy victims. About how I convinced myself I was entitled to take whatever I wanted without consequences. Tyrell finally looked up, and Aisha saw something genuine in his eyes. Shame, regret, the weight of understanding what he'd done. I can't undo any of it. Can't bring back your daughter. Can't give you back the months you spent homeless because of me. But I wanted you to know that I see it now. All of it. And I'm sorry. Completely, genuinely, insufficiently sorry. Aisha was quiet for a long moment. Behind her, Jehun's presence was a wall of protective fury, ready to destroy Tyrell if she gave the word. But she didn't want destruction anymore. She wanted peace. I forgive you, Aisha said. Tyrell's head snapped up in shock. Not because you've earned it. Not because 7 years of construction work balances the scales. But because holding on to that anger, that hate, that trauma, it only hurts me. My children. My family. My future. Aisha leaned forward. You destroyed my life once. I'm not giving you the power to haunt it forever. So I forgive you. And then I'm going to forget you. You're going to walk out of this office and out of my story permanently. Do you understand? Yes, Tyrell whispered. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just do better. Be better. And if you ever think about hurting another woman the way you hurt me, remember this moment. Remember that mercy is a gift, not a guarantee. Tyrell stood, nodded to Jehun, who didn't nod back, and left. After he was gone, Jehun came around the desk and pulled Aisha into his arms. Are you okay? Yeah, I am. And surprisingly, she was. Facing Tyrell hadn't reopened old wounds. It had finally closed them. It's done. That chapter is actually finally done. Good. Because our next chapter starts in about 4 minutes when we have to pick up the twins from school. And your mother is joining us for dinner. And the foundation board meeting is tomorrow. And I love you. And I love you more. They kissed, and Aisha thought about the journey from that boutique floor 7 years ago to this moment. Standing in her own office, running her own foundation, married to a man who'd helped her rebuild herself, raising 2 miracles who shouldn't have been possible. The phoenix had risen, and she was never coming down. If you loved seeing Aisha and Jehun's journey from that brutal mall attack to raising twins and running a foundation, hit that subscribe button because I've got more stories like this coming every single week. You won't want to miss it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to Aisha and Jehun's complete journey. I'll see you in the next one. The end.